Hi everyone, and welcome to the AdEspresso April webinar. Thank you for joining me today. So as you can probably see on the screen there, the topic that we're covering today is effective strategies to generate leads with Facebook ads. It's something that I use a lot for Facebook advertising, so hopefully I can share some of my best tips with you today there. So just before we get going, a little bit of housekeeping. The most common question we always get asked is, are we recording? Yes, we are. We'll send you the recording by email in about an hour or two after this webinar finishes. Also within a day, check on adespresso.com/webinars. If for any reason you haven't received an email with the recording, also check out our YouTube channel, just search for AdEspresso, and all the recordings of previous webinars are there. So we're going to cover quite a lot today. So if there's anything that you miss or want to go over again, just wait for that recording there and hopefully that will help. These webinars, they're meant to be very interactive. I make sure I always leave time at the end for questions. So if you've got any questions, just go to your GoToWebinar panel and you'll see that questions box, type a questions in there. My colleague Tori is also monitoring chat. So if you've got any questions as you go along, just let us know and we'll get to as many as possible. Also, if you just want to let us know where you're from today, where in the world you're joining us from, just put in the questions box. We appreciate to see where people are joining from us today there. Great, can see some people. Got Michelle from Malaysia, and we got Ami, one of our colleagues there. Jackie from Philippines, Kelly from Jordan. Wow, so many people joining us. There's about a couple of dozen people just for their vacation. So I'm sorry I can't get to you, but we've got a truly global audience. India, Sri Lanka, England. So lots of great people joining us. Thank you. So just a little bit about myself, so you know my credibility for delivering this training today. I'm Paul, I'm the Head of Education here at AdEspresso. If you've got any questions after this webinar, just email me, paul@adespresso.com. I promise that I'll reply to every single email that I get. Always going to be happy to help people with strategy there. My background with Facebook advertising, I've audited campaigns from over 1,000 different ad accounts. So those are accounts from all over the world, all different industries. So I've really got my finger on the pulse of what's happening now with Facebook advertising. I personally spend about $1 to $2 million a year on Facebook ads. You kind of stop counting after a while, but you can see that I'm placing a lot of lead gen ads every single day. I coach clients of all different sizes, specialize in small, medium businesses, but I've also got clients that spend over $1 billion. So their revenue is over $1 billion, not quite $1 billion in ad spend, but very, very high revenue there. So what are we going to be covering today? We're going to break it down into 6 topics. And really, I'm going to split this webinar into 2 halves. The first half is going to be quite high level. We're going to be looking at why you should capture leads, when to use lead generation in your sales funnel, and just have a brief look at some lead magnets. And then we're going to have a deep dive into setting up Facebook lead generation campaigns. So the second half of the webinar from section 4 onwards is going to be a bit more technical there. So we're just going to ease you in and then go into the actual campaign setup there. So let's actually get on with today's session. And first of all, we're going to be talking about why we should actually capture leads. Obviously, there's no point in covering a webinar on lead generation if we're not covering why we actually should capture those leads. So what I've done is I've broken this down into 5 key points where I reckon you really should be looking at capturing leads. The first is that once you've got those leads, remarketing to people by email is relatively cheap. I just pulled this up from MailChimp's pricing page. You can email up to 2,000 contacts and send up to 10,000 emails a month, totally free. Now, I'm not going to say that lead generation, well, lead remarketing is going to be free. Obviously, there's add-ons. If you go up to some of the more advanced marketing platforms, there are charges going to be incurred there. But just look at the simple calculation. What is your normal CPM, which is the cost per 1,000 impressions for serving ads on Facebook? A lot of the times in the US, I might be paying $20 CPM. So to send out like 10,000 impressions on Facebook could be $200. That there on MailChimp is going to be free. So we can see once we've got those contacts there, very, very cheap compared to running more Facebook ads. Probably doing myself out of a job there, but that lead remarketing is going to be very cheap. Second reason is there's no time limits on remarketing. Once you've got that email, you can remarket to them as long as you want, with as many emails as you want. On Facebook, they are website custom audiences. You can only remarket to people for 180 days. There are some audiences like engagement audiences and video view audiences that you can retarget for a year. But just imagine, it's Black Friday, Cyber Monday. You want to remarket to the people that purchased from you last year because they're going to be the warmest audience, and you can't through your website custom audience. Whereas if you capture that lead, no problem at all. Even if it was like 2 years ago, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you can still remarket to them. So those no time limits are really powerful there. Third reason is just less restriction on content. Now, I'm not going to say that you can put anything that you like in emails, but within reason that you're more liberal in what you can promote than through Facebook ads. We can see here that just the other day I was looking at the Facebook ads policies. There's 30 types of prohibited content listed and 13 types of restricted content. There's also other limitations. For example, if you've got an image in an ad, you can't have more than 20% text. Otherwise, Facebook's going to restrict your distribution. So loads and loads of restrictions there on Facebook ads. So, certain categories of business, you probably just want to get that lead through Facebook ads. And then you can just, you're not so worried about the keywords that you use in your email remarketing. Like I say, there are policies on each CRM platform, but generally not quite as many as on Facebook there. Fourth reason for capturing leads is you can set up automated retargeting sequences. This is actually an example that we use at AdEspresso. It's one of our lead nurture workflows. Obviously, it's a bit too small to see, but basically, once you get that lead come in, you're not going to have to manually email every person. You can set those triggers, MailChimp, HubSpot, Infusionsoft, whatever you use is going to have these email nurture sequences. So it's kind of set it and forget it. You can really write these sequences once. Maybe it's 6 emails over 2 weeks, or maybe it's like a dozen emails over a month. And there we go. It's all automated. It's very, very simple once you've got the lead generation campaigns set up on Facebook. Last reason is, once people have gone through that automated sequence, we can then still remarket to them regularly so that your brand is always going to be top of their mind. This is an example of the AdEspresso email. We send this out every week, and we've just got a template we use. Once you've got that template there, very easy to kind of like fill in that content every week, send out that newsletter there. So not too much work, even when you've gone past that automated sequence there. So hopefully that convinces you that there's some, 5 powerful aspects once you capture those leads there. So it's got to be an important pillar of your marketing. I put it up there with Facebook ads and Google ads. I think that email marketing is the 3rd pillar there. So really important to go and capture those leads as often as possible. Going to move on now. We're going to think about when we should be using lead generation and what type of businesses we can be using it for there. So you've probably seen, if you've read any marketing blogs, some kind of version of this funnel. It's a classic sales funnel that you start off with people just becoming aware of your business and brand. You can then squeeze them down, move them down into being interested in your brand. They then kind of consider some of your products. They then show that intent to buy. They then evaluate any alternatives and then purchase. So when do we use lead generation? Likely to be that once people are aware of your brand, obviously you can't generate leads till they're aware. Once you've got that kind of awareness and interest, that's when you can generate leads, and you can then use that lead nurturing, like we just covered, automated email sequences and newsletters, to then start moving people down into intent and purchase there. So what kind of reasons would we want to use lead generation? Sometimes it's because you've got a complex product. Good example is AdEspresso. It's a complex piece of software. It's aimed at a very niche market. It's not a one-click purchase. You don't just click on the Facebook ad and go, right, I'm going to buy AdEspresso. You need to know all the details about it. We basically take you through our product tour, and that's best done by email rather than just a single Facebook ad there. So just think about different types of businesses. If you're selling mobile phone covers on Amazon, they're $20 each. You probably don't need too much lead nurture. I'd still have it as part of your funnel, but really you just like get people to click on the ad and purchase. But more complex businesses, more complex propositions, hard ticket items, then definitely think about lead nurturing towards the top of your funnel there. Another example is maybe you just have products that you can't really sell on the website. This is my good friend Doi Clark. She's one of the top 50 business coaches in the world, and she does sell some products on her website, but a lot of what she does is long-term coaching commitments. People book her for public speaking gigs. That's the sort of thing that you would pick up the phone and speak to her, or you would drop an email. You're not just going to click on the ad and then go and book somebody for coaching. It's just not physically possible to do that. So that's why we want to go and capture those emails and build that relationship by email there, because that's where the transaction is going to happen. So, you know, a lot of businesses do e-commerce, but there's a much bigger ecosystem of businesses that don't sell on their website. So what Doi does there, she's got a self-assessment workbook. You can download that. Again, that goes through that automated nurture sequence and then goes into a regular newsletter that Doi's got. Another reason why we want to use lead generation is because Facebook's got something called the learning phase. I mean, this could be a webinar in itself, but basically when you're prospecting to cold traffic, Facebook can get you the best results. When it starts getting regular conversions, technically it needs 50 conversions per ad set per week. What that means is the more conversions that come in, Facebook uses that AI and then finds out who to serve ads to. So you get better and better results. Now, if you've got a product where you're not getting many purchases, maybe there's a long consideration phase before people buy. They're not buying within a few days. Maybe it's a high ticket item. Then you can't always go and optimize for 50 purchases per ad set per week. That's going to apply to a lot of products. So you need to move up that funnel, and you could be thinking, where could you move up to? You could sometimes be optimizing for add to carts or initiate checkouts. But again, if you've got that long nurture phase and that long evaluation phase, then a good halfway house is to optimize for leads. It's quite simple for most businesses to get that 50 conversions per ad set per week. And then Facebook can just use that machine learning and really optimize your campaigns well. Another type of business where we want to be using lead generation is because you've got a high ticket item. Just think of somebody booking like a holiday or cruise. Okay, I know this is probably not the best example at the moment, but you kind of get the ideas that, you know, people might be looking for 2021. They might be spending thousands of dollars there. And so they're not just going to click on the ad and go and book their holiday. It's much more expensive. They need to know a lot more details. So if we can do some lead generation there, then we can just, again, do that lead nurturing. So for high ticket items, really important to do lead gen as much as possible on Facebook there. I'm going to switch track, different types of businesses. If you run Kickstarter campaigns, Kickstarter is very different to normal e-commerce. What you need to do to get a successful product is have a very successful first day. So I've actually got products trending at #1 on Kickstarter. It's one of my specialities. And the way to do it is you need to be doing lead generation for a couple of weeks in advance, so that you collect all those leads. And then on day one, you go and send them several emails, get them onto the website. Once it's picked up as trending on Kickstarter, you get more visibility. Kickstarter might also feature it in its newsletter. So you get the snowball effect, more sales. So really important on Kickstarter. Similarly, if you do podcasts, I've got podcasts as well, trending at #1 in their particular section. I've actually got millions of podcast downloads. One of my clients got a very successful podcast. And if you want to get a really good start on these, if you want to be trending on iTunes, then again, you need this big surge in downloads out the gate. You can't just have this slow build. And the way to do that is to do that lead generation, email people as soon as your podcast is released. And also each time you've got a new episode, imagine you've got like a weekly podcast series, you can email people every time there's a new podcast out there. So that lead generation is going to be really important. Just again, switching gears, if you've got an Amazon store, very difficult to capture emails and remarket to people if you're leading your traffic straight to Amazon, which means, you know, as soon as you turn those ads off, that's it, your traffic dries up, your profitability dries up. So think about the ways that we could do some lead generation in advance. I know that we've got a lot of AdEspresso customers that are authors, and so what they do is they give away a sample book chapter or maybe even a small book like a novella. And so they capture those leads, and then they can nurture those people and send them to Amazon through email. It just means that when they release a new book or anything like that, when they've got a sale on, that they can just like tap into those emails and market to people. So you've got that long-term sustainable, very cheap marketing there. So it's really, really important that we get those leads there. Final reason, maybe you've got a conventional e-commerce business. Maybe you don't even have a particularly long sort of consideration phase for people to buy. Maybe it's not even a particular high ticket item. This is Sugar and Crumbs. They're an AdEspresso customer. And what you find with their products is they sell standard baking products. But even with the best ad campaigns, only about 1 to 5% of people that click through to a website make a purchase immediately. So that means you've got kind of 95 to 99% of that traffic that isn't going to purchase straight away. So if we could scoop up that traffic into a website custom audience and remarket them, get those leads. In this case, it's natural that they do a recipe lead magnet because they're doing baking supplies. Then that's going to be really great there. So again, we've got that long-term nurturing and just try and get some extra sales there. You don't necessarily need to be prospecting with your lead generation. Just think that retargeting your website custom audiences or engagement audiences or video view audiences can be useful there. So hopefully so far with these 2 sections, I've convinced you why we need to be running lead generation and the sort of businesses and sort of stages in your funnel when we need to be using it. So next, let's have a look at the lead magnets. Basically, there's no point in running lead generation campaigns unless we've got a good lead magnet. So let's have first of all, a look at a typical lead magnet that you'll see on most websites. They have something like this. So this is a real example I've seen. This is why I've blanked out the brand. Join our mailing list. Once you have filled out the information below, you'll be sent an email requesting confirmation. This is a double opt-in process, blah, 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 blah. No, you can't use something like this as a lead magnet. It's just not going to work. As Massimo, who's the founder of AdEspresso, puts it, no one wants to sign up for any more email. Email is very valuable for people. They're not going to give up their email lightly. You've got to give them that value. You've got to give them that incentive. So we've got to be thinking about a lead magnet. Just join our mailing list is not going to work these days. You've got to give that real specific incentive. So what we're going to do in this section is I'm just going to give you some ideas on different categories of lead magnets there. This graphic here is actually from Facebook themselves. It's part of their Facebook Blueprint course. And there's 8 ideas there for lead magnets. Giving people deals and offers, we'll look at one of those examples in a second. Competitions, I'm a big fan of this. Give away some of your product. Again, we'll look at some examples there. Maybe people want to make an inquiry about your product. Pre-ordering, we've kind of covered this with the Kickstarter example that we just looked at there. Product samples, this is great. You could give away free trial, like sample size products in exchange for people just paying shipping. Incredibly popular lead magnet, very good way of qualifying your leads as well. Maybe you've got some kind of physical event that people can attend. They can get like a free ticket in store there. Scheduling appointments, and probably the most common things when we think about lead magnets is downloading studies, PDFs, white papers. And again, we're going to cover some of those in a second there. But just make a note of this and think about the kind of lead magnets that you can use instead of that generic join our mailing list. So let's have a look at some examples here. This is from Native Deodorant. They're actually masters of digital marketing. I'm not sure how a deodorant brand can be so good, but check out their website, Native Deodorant. They use all the tricks in the book for ethical digital marketing. Extremely good brand there. So you go onto their website, then you get a pop-up, and it's just very simple competition. Enter your email address, get a chance to win 12 months of deodorant there. And they've got that offer that expires there. So there's like that sense of urgency as well. Another example, this is from our parent company, Hootsuite. Just go onto the homepage, and above the fold there, you can join up for a 30-day trial. So that's giving that free value there, get a free trial in exchange for people's details. Example of what we use ourselves here at AdEspresso is a free ebook download. I know we covered this in one of the previous slides, but where we've got like a complex product, we can give lots of value. If you go onto adespresso.com, you'll see our academy there. We've got loads and loads of free content, especially ebooks and guides that people can download. Example, this is kind of quite meta because we're doing this on this webinar. Webinars are very good for lead generation. So, we like to give free training anyway, but they're also a good way of lead generation. So obviously we can run adverts, get people to sign up for the latest webinar. And that's a very good way of, giving content, promoting your brand and getting those leads in. Another good friend of mine, Amy Barnard-Bunn, she runs ads for like B2B to try and get people to move up to executive levels in their career. And she's got like a checklist they can go through. It's like a little quiz that you just fill in the PDF, answer all the questions, go and score it at the end, and then see whether you're promotable to go up to the next level. So the take-home message here is that we don't need to be giving away 100-page ebooks that could take an age to write. Sometimes just 2-page PDFs are the most popular giveaways there. But you've got to format it, just get a graphic designer to go and tidy it up, but that's pretty easy and cheap to do. But yeah, you can write these things in an hour or two. So just think about that useful content that you can give people there. Another example of lead magnet here, quizzes. People love quizzes and they kind of cut through the noise. Is that although like PDF downloads are very, very good, everybody's doing it these days. So sometimes people like quizzes. I mean, it goes back to decades ago when people used to fill in those quizzes in popular magazines. They'll do that online there. So something we've done at AdEspresso for lead nurturing for quite a few years there is quizzes. Like in this case, how much is your knowledge on Facebook ads? We can go and test you there. Another example, I've only got a couple more, don't worry, and we're going to then move on to how to create the ads. But they're giving people a birthday gift, really popular with restaurants. Certainly where I'm based here in the UK, a lot of the pizza restaurants, they give you a free bottle of wine, maybe a free appetizer on your birthday in exchange for signing up for their newsletter there. So something like that, a little bit quirky, a little bit different. Again, it cuts through the noise there. And last example I want to show you here is, this is basically just signing up for a newsletter. But instead of that first example of just saying join our newsletter, they've gone for specificity. So they're being very specific. They're saying, right, if you join up for our newsletter, what are you going to get from there? You're going to get workout guides. You're going to get extra discounts. You're going to get access to new products. And that nice kind of graphic there, you can see how different this is from a boring text-based pop-up that just says join our newsletter and just goes into all the details about double opt-ins and that. This is going to be much, much better. I'd imagine the conversion rates are going to be much higher. So, if you haven't got specific lead magnets and you just want people in a newsletter, just think of the specific benefits for people there. So we're kind of like halfway through now, saying that we've looked at the high level of like why you need to be running lead generation, look at some lead magnets, when to use them. And so now we're going to switch gears. We're going to get more technical and we're going to look at how to actually create these campaigns. And so we're going to be doing a deep dive into Facebook lead ads. But just before we go and switch into some ad examples there, just wanted to go through some advantages on why we use Facebook lead ads. And so it'll make more sense when we look at the ads in a second. So the advantages with using lead ads on Facebook, first of all, they're designed for mobile. About 94% of ad traffic on Facebook, believe it or not, is on mobile. So that means cell phones, that's going to be iPads, going to be tablets there. So we need something that works on mobile devices, not just laptops and desktops. You can also customize the forms. You can ask the questions that matter to you. Maybe for your brand, you need to know like things like the zip code or something like that. Then you can ask these questions. We'll go into building a form in a second. These forms are pre-populated with information from from the user's Facebook profile. So it's very easy for the user to fill in. It's most magical that they go to open the form, it fills in the name, email address, and so on, and they can just hit submit, and that's it. Super simple, again, designed for mobile. You can also just get on with your ads very, very quickly. You can set them up in minutes, no complex or expensive landing page software required. A lot of new advertisers, they're itching to get going, and it really slows you down if you've got to design these landing pages, find landing page software, and so on. Maybe down the line you'll do that, but I'm going to show you how to set up those lead ads very quickly. Sometimes I've got like a new advertiser, we've set them up and got going in 5 minutes. And lastly, we can connect to your CRM there. So once we get those leads, we're going to go through how we can sync those up and make the most of those so that we can then automate our sequences there. So let's jump out of the slides there. And what we're going to do is now look at some examples of some actual lead ads here on Facebook. So this is an example that we used, as you can see, a little bit old, but it's still valid, still the same as any new ads that you put out there. So people are surfing on Facebook, they could be on mobile, could be on desktop, they see the ad here. Give them that incentive. Okay, what have we got here? We've got that bundle that they can get there of ebooks. They click on the button, form pops up, pre-fills in with their information, and they click next, and there we go. Done just like that. How easy is that for a user? We want to reduce that friction wherever possible and make it as super simple. Always put your user first there. So that's going to be a much higher conversion rate than having to get people to click through to the website, fill in some, scroll down, find the form, fill in this form, typing everything on a small mobile device. Much, much easier there. I'm going to give you another example. This is from Facebook. They've got this, it's kind of like their kind of like page that they use called Jasper's Market. That's their kind of like demo page. We're just going to watch this little 30-second video on like a user experience with a lead form here. So you can see this particular lead form is like a carousel. You can get a free sample box. So again, they've got that strong incentive. People click on like sign up. You get the form here. It's pre-filled in with their information. Facebook might not have all the information. It's not going to have your street address. So sometimes people might need to go and type in some of this information there. Type it in. They're going to hit this submit button. There you go. Thank you page. Free samples on the way. On your way, you can go to the website if you want. Otherwise, you can just continue on Facebook. So you can see really, really simple user experience. Very intuitive for anybody on Facebook. So great for you as a marketer. Great for the user. Win-win all the way around there. So there's really two aspects to setting up the campaigns on Facebook. There's the campaign itself, which we'll come to in a second. But before we can create the campaign, we need to create that form that people fill in. So what we're going to do is just run through the best practices for setting up that form. So if you've got the best form, then you're going to succeed with your ads there. So what we're going to do, there's two ways you can create the form. I'm going to show you how to create it on the Facebook page. You can also create it within Ads Manager, but I generally like to create them on my Facebook page. Might be just personal preference. So go to your Facebook page. I'm assuming that you're page admin and that you've logged into Business Manager if relevant. And somewhere across the top here, you should be able to go to Publishing Tools. And we're just going to let that load for a second. Facebook's always a bit slow at this time of day. And then what we're going to get in our publishing tools is on the left-hand menu, you get your lead ads forms library. So we're going to click on this forms library here. And that's going to take you to your previous forms there. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new form. Now, something that you notice when we do this is that we can't edit an existing form. Once you've published a form, you can't edit it, but you can duplicate a new form. And with that clone, you could go and edit that. So it's just something to think about, is don't publish your forms until you've finished editing it there. So we're going to go in this case to a new form. And let's go and run through this. You'll see a mock-up as you go along. The first thing that you get is form type. Do you want more volume or high intent? There's not that much difference on high intent. You just get the user has like a confirmation step at the end. Before the form submits, they just had to swipe and say confirm there. It's up to you what you do. I don't think you need this higher intent. You can put it in if you like, but I'm quite happy with more volume. But one thing I think is really important is to go to settings here and make sure that your form's restricted, not open. The reason for this is restricted forms can only be filled in by people that are served the form as a paid ad. And with open, anybody can access that form, they can access that post. And what you find there, unfortunately, is that you get lots of spam. Lots of bots. I have no idea why, but you get bots that just like fill in lots of these forms. So if you do it restricted, then you're not going to get that kind of bot abuse there. So that's why I do. Use restricted and then use more volume. So what we can then do now is go through the rest of the settings. The intro. Some people leave this out. I really recommend that you keep in the intro. The reason why is even though lead forms have been around for several years on Facebook, some users are still not that familiar with them. So make it as easy as possible. Give them that confidence there. So I'd put that little intro. You can just put this little paragraph and really just remind people why they're going to be signing up. What's that incentive? What's that lead magnet? And then you can upload an image, but I really recommend, if at all possible, using the same image from your ad. The reason why is that we want a strong match between the form and the ad. We don't want that kind of jump where they see one type, maybe a cartoony image on the ad, and then they see like maybe a photo on the form. That's going to throw them off there and not give them that confidence. So especially if you're A/B testing, maybe you're split testing half a dozen different images on your ads, just go and use this option to use the image from your ad there. And that's going to be a nice kind of smooth experience there. The heart of the form then is the questions. So you'll see it starts off with email and full name, but we can add more. We can also drag and move these along. It's really easy to build this form. So just click on new questions. What do we want to ask? Maybe we need a phone number. We can just click on that. We can add it in. Super simple. Maybe we need to know some information. Be careful asking too much personal information. People are still reluctant to give up that on Facebook. You know, personally, probably wouldn't hand over my date of birth on Facebook there. So just think about the questions that we asked. There are certain things we can do here. This is a good one, short answer. So you can have this open-ended question. Yes, you are getting people to type in there. You are putting that little bit of friction. And I said earlier, that's one of the advantages of lead forms is you don't need to type in anything. But the reason why I put in this little short open-ended question is just because it makes people think before they submit it. It really increases the amount of brand awareness. So just that one little extra question is good there. You can also have multiple choice. There's conditional formatting. This is where people answer one question, and then the second question that they see depends on the answer to the first one there. You can get really technical and do appointment scheduling as well, but generally you can see you can keep it simple. We can build up a form like that within seconds there. So simple to build in these forms. If we want to move it around just like that there. So much easier than building a dedicated landing page on your website. To finish up the forms, we need a privacy policy. You should, as an advertiser, have this on your website already. So there's plenty of templates depending on your countries for privacy policies anyway. So you're going to link to that there. Some businesses in regulated industries, if you need to go and add custom disclaimers, maybe you need a consent checkbox, maybe you're worried about GDPR or some other regulation. Yeah, Facebook's got you covered. They can add in all those things that you need there. So yeah, lots of customization in the form, just like you would be able to on the website there. Finally, you finish up the form with that thank you screen. Just like the intro, this is something that advertisers neglect. It's actually super important. The reason why is that, say somebody's signing up for a lead form, they might assume that they're going to get the lead magnet from once they filled in the form. That's not the case. What's going to happen is we need to send that lead to our CRM, and then MailChimp, HubSpot, or whatever is going to email that lead magnet out to the customer. So sometimes I get queries from customers going, well, where's my lead magnet? Where's my download? And so just make it very clear. Thank you for filling in your details. Check your inbox. You're going to have the lead magnet there. And of course, you can then put a button in and get people to visit the website. You could also put your lead magnet there as well. But yes, we've got to remember that not every user on Facebook is as technical as us advertisers, so make it really simple there. So that's the form. What you'll find is that, yeah, the first time you make a form might take you 5-10 minutes. The second one you're doing 60 seconds. Very, very quick and easy process. You can save the draft as you go along. As I talked about earlier, don't click finish, don't publish it until you've finished editing, as you can't then edit later. You'd have to go and copy the form and create a new one. So now we've got that form, we can then start plugging that into our ad campaign. So we're going to look at two ways of doing this. One is going to be on Ads Manager, and one is going to be in AdEspresso. So let's start by having a look at AdEspresso here. So what we do, we're going to create a new campaign. We go to campaign name, obviously put in your ad account, and what we would do is choose lead generation. And by the way, if you don't use AdEspresso, I'm going to show you in a second how to replicate this in Ads Manager. So what we do is choose the campaign. And then what we do is we start filling in the details. very, very similar to a normal, like a traffic or conversion campaign, or what we call an external website campaign in AdEspresso. Very similar. The only difference is you're plugging into a lead form. So you can put in your headlines. Obviously, you need a strong incentive to get people to download. You can put in your ad text, put in your images or videos, and then crucially, you choose your form. So you need to plug into the correct form there, because that's what people are going to be filling in. And then you can put in link description and so on, and call to actions there. Now, key advantage of using AdEspresso is wherever you get the plus button, you can split test. So rather than in Ads Manager having to clone the ads and edit it and put in a new headline, it's quite a time-consuming process. In AdEspresso, we can do all this at the campaign creation stage. Hit that plus button, and two different headlines offering different incentives can make quite a big difference in your cost per lead there. Images are definitely going to make a difference. So you can put in the different images, you get your previews there. And yeah, very simple. If you're used to creating a normal campaign to take people through to your website, then you can run these types of campaigns, these lead generations in your sleep once you've got that form there. Very, very simple to go and set these up there. So yeah, you can give those a go in AdEspresso. Just choose that lead generation campaign type there. Just while we're here, this call to action, something that's kind of tucked away at the bottom of campaign creation. People don't think much about it, but it's actually very important. I ran a $1,000 experiment on this. And what we did is we actually put our real money behind this, $1,000, and get the data and see what's important for lead generation campaigns. And what we saw is testing different buttons. On this one, we tested no button versus sign up versus learn more versus download. It's a little bit small here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. This is the results. This is another good thing about AdEspresso. Got very graphical results, so you can easily see what's working, what's not. And basically, one CTA button, in this case download, was $5 a lead. Sign up was nearly twice the amount there. So you can halve your cost per lead just by getting the right CTA button. Disclaimer here, I'm not saying to use download button, just that choosing the right button can make a big difference there. So if you're not an AdEspresso user, then I'm just going to show you in Ads Manager how to do the same thing. We can obviously click on the green button to create a campaign. And what we do there, let's just start again there. We choose lead generation. And then what we do, we obviously give it a name, choose our daily budget. Do we want CPO and so on? And then we can choose our audience here, very similar to any other type of campaigns. You'll notice with placements, some placements are unavailable for lead gen campaigns because people can't click on the forms there. You can't get it in Messenger, within search, audience networks, there's less volume there. Also right-hand column, but all the key placements, your Instagram and Facebook newsfeed and marketplace and things like that, you can run these lead generation ads. Also, your optimization in AdEspresso or Ads Manager, you're optimizing for leads. This is the default, is the only option, but it's the logical one. You want Facebook to get leads for you there. And the Facebook's going to default to what I call automatic bidding or lowest cost bidding there. So you choose your audience here. So it's going to optimize for lead. It's going to get you the best, going to give you the best automated bidding there. Once you're happy with that, go to create your ad. Very, very similar to AdEspresso. Do you want an image, video, or carousel? I'm not really going to dwell on this. You know how to go and put in your ad text, your headline, link description, call to action button, and so on there. And then what you do is at the bottom here, you choose your form, just like you would do in AdEspresso. Also, if you needed to create a new form, if you didn't want to go and do it through your forms library on your website, you can go and create the new form here instead. Exactly the same process. So it's just really personal preference, what's going to be easiest for you there. So I hope that kind of makes sense. If you've got any questions, just put them in the question box and we're going to get to them at the end there. And we're going to go back to our main presentation now. So yeah, once we've got those, once we've set up our campaigns, we've made the form, we've got it running, we start collecting leads. Great, what happens now? Well, the leads coming in, you can go into Ads Manager, and if you click on each ad, you can hover over results, and there's an option to download them. This is no good to anybody. Imagine that every time we get a lead coming in, we're going to have to be obsessively checking Facebook and then downloading those leads, importing them into our CRM and sending out the lead magnet. That's going to be a time-consuming, frustrating process with lots of leads there. So not suitable for anybody really. The other way that you can download download the leads is going to your forms library. You can then download them per form instead of per ad. Again, it's going to be time consuming. There's going to be a delay. Also note that you can only download the leads for 90 days. So make sure that you download them as they come in. But yeah, this is going to be no good. Instead, we need to automate things. We need software to do the heavy lifting for us and sync up your lead forms to your CRM. When I talk about CRM, I'm always talking about your email provider, MailChimp, HubSpot, Infusionsoft, and so on. You can go to Facebook. Facebook's got guides, whatever your CRM is. They're going to tell you how to go and sync up those leads there. There's obviously hundreds of different options to do this. So you can look at the guides from Facebook. Just Google like Facebook lead form sync, and it will find this guide for you. But really, I'm going to give you some suggestions. The first is to see what your CRM actually does. Some CRMs now are getting to the stage where they can sync up to the lead forms. Klaviyo is a really good example. This is Klaviyo is really designed for e-commerce. It syncs really well with Shopify, and you can sync up your lead forms there. So yeah, quite pricey, but a very good option. A tried and true option, a lot of people are using Zapier. Zapier basically creates a bridge from one software to another piece of software, and it's very popular to go and sync your lead ads to different things. Like generally send it to maybe MailChimp, but you can also send it to Gmail, Google Sheets, whatever you want to go and do with it there. If you want some software that's just downloaded, so just dedicated to syncing up really Facebook to your CRM, there's a nice company called LeadsBridge. They've got about 380 integrations. Yeah, 370 at the moment here. It's one, it does one thing well. This is what the tool does: is it syncs Facebook and Instagram leads to other software platforms. Yeah, it covers just about every type of platform you could imagine there. I will say though that I'm a big advocate for AdEspresso Data Sync. So Data Sync is built into AdEspresso. It covers about a dozen of the main channels. Yes, we don't do 370 there. You'll find most people are using MailChimp, HubSpot, ActiveCampaigns, and so on there. Now, reasons I like this. The first reason is that it's built into AdEspresso. So it's one less piece of software that you need, one less password there. It's also built into the price of AdEspresso. You haven't got another subscription. LeadsBridge and Zapier, if you're using them heavily, can be quite expensive. And Klaviyo, like I said, is going to be quite pricey as well. This is all very cheap because it's built into AdEspresso. Also, just find it's very simple to use. I haven't got time on this webinar to talk you through it, but there's basically 5 steps and then a recap. It's very, very simple. I've tried using LeadsBridge before, very powerful, but to get your head around there, it's actually quite complex. Well, certainly for somebody like myself, whereas I found that I can set up an AdEspresso data sync, or one of my clients can set it up within a couple of minutes there. Super simple to use this. You just basically choose your source, which is Facebook, choose the Facebook page, find the form, and away you go there. Just link it up to your CRM, and that's it, you're all sorted. You can also go in the other direction as well. Maybe you've got like an email list and then you want to send it to Facebook as a Facebook custom audience for remarketing. You've got both directions there on AdEspresso. I think Zapier, you've only got one direction unless you start paying more. So yeah, I'm a really big fan. It's a lot less frustrating and a lot cheaper using AdEspresso Data Sync. So if we're covering your CRM, definitely go and check it out with our free trial, which I'm going to give you at the end of this webinar. So to kind of like finish up on these, like sync up your lead forms, I'm also just going to, just a little kind of like aside here, talk about the custom audiences they can build from your lead form itself there. This isn't exporting the leads. This is on Facebook. Is that when you go into Ads Manager, you can go to create custom audience. You have this lead form option. And so you can create a custom audience of people that have opened your form. or it could be that people that opened but didn't submit, or people that have submitted. Generally, I'm going to create an audience of people that have submitted the form. Put a time window. This could be up to 90 days. That's the maximum. It's shorter than a website custom audience. And you can also go for specific forms as well. So what I'm doing with this, just go into audiences section of Business Manager, go and click and have a play with these. But basically what I'm going to do with these audiences is two things. I'm going to create an audience of people that filled in the lead form, and I'm going to exclude that from my other lead generation campaigns. No point in attracting leads from people that are already a lead. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to remarket to that recent lead audience so I can warm them up. Before my sales team are going to jump on a call with those people, if I can give them some useful content for a few days, then we're going to get that super hot lead. So it's very easy for the sales team to then call and close the deal there. So that gives you some ideas about the technical aspects. And just finishing up is benchmarks. I can't really run this webinar without giving you some idea of cost there. So this is data that we pulled from AdEspresso from 30,000 lead campaigns here. I will say, big disclaimer, don't worry too much about this cost per lead. Really just look at this conversion rate and how much it jumps up from the number of questions that you ask. The reason why I don't want you to dwell on this is it's very different for every industry, different country, depends on your lead magnet, how qualified the lead is and so on. But what we can see here is that leads are quite cheap. Once you ask over 5 questions, it really jumps up. Now, I know as marketers, we want to get as much information as possible about the prospect, but just be aware that you're going to pay more. There is a balance. The more information that we get, the more qualified the lead. But what do you want? Do you want more leads that are cheap, or do you want less leads but more qualified? That's the decision that you can make there. So there's a bit of a balance to be had. Like we saw, if you start asking for too much personal information, people aren't going to give that out. So try and stick with the basics like name, email address, phone number maybe. Once you start getting into zip codes, date of birth and so on, it's going to be harder to get those leads there. And really, take-home message from this webinar is focus on the lead quality, not the cheapest leads. I think I kind of need that tattooed on me because it's so important there. So what I'd like to do with my clients, once you get the leads in, is go and look at what's happening with those leads. Go into your CRM, look at what the open rate is, look at what your click-through rate is once people open those emails. Are you getting unsubscribes? Are you getting bounces? This is benchmarks in the UK, quite recent benchmarks. These are from Campaign Monitor. It's going to be different for every industry, every location, but just do that internal benchmarking compared to like the organic leads that you get in. I had one client, we're getting very cheap leads. We were finding then that nobody was opening the email apart from to unsubscribe. And so we could see the leads were junk, wasn't worth paying for them. We changed strategy. So just go and follow those leads through the funnel, see what's happening to them. And I'm going to finish up with a couple of examples of quite expensive leads, but where they can be good quality. Scenario here, this was a client of mine, paid $40 a lead, B2B, 1 in 10 converted in the sale. So we paid $400 per sale, but the service was worth $3,000, net profit $2,600. I think that's quite worth it there, even at $40 a lead. Another client that I ran lead gen for, we paid $100 a lead. Eye-wateringly high cost. I know they're expecting probably like $1 a lead or 50 cents, whatever, but this is why I'm saying sometimes, quality costs, especially for B2B. Paid $100 a lead, so 1 in 10 converted, $1,000 a sale, but their service was $10,000. They netted $9,000 there per sale. So sometimes expensive leads can be worth it. I'm not saying you should be paying $100 a lead. It's very different depending whether you're doing consumer, the country, and so on. But sometimes quality is more important than quantity there. So let's sum up what we've learned today before we get into Q&A. 5 take-home points for you. Capturing leads enables you to market very cheaply to people for as long as you want. You need that lead magnet there with a very strong incentive to get people to hand over their email address. Facebook lead forms, fantastic for you, fantastic for the user, can set them up within minutes and have a great user experience. You then need to sync up your leads to your CRM using a data sync tool like we showed, Zapier, LeadsBridge, or preferably AdEspresso. And then you want to automate your marketing from there, put in that automated email drip sequences and have templates for your regular newsletters. So I hope you found that useful today, and I'd like to give you a little thank you for joining me and sticking through with me through this webinar. So if you go to adespresso.com/AE-webinar, we're going to give you a free 14-day trial and 30% of AdEspresso. Check out our data sync tool and check out building some lead generation campaigns there. And then, if this kind of you think this is a bit complex, you need that kind of one-to-one help there, you're not alone. We're going to help you. We're not just a software tool. We also have an optimization services team. You can book campaign reviews. We can do one-to-one power hour coaching sessions via Zoom. We've even got a managed ad service. It's called a concierge service. It's a bit like an ads agency there. You can email paul@adespresso.com for details, or go to adespresso.com/tour, and you can see our tour there. And then a little heads up for our May webinar. We're going to be switching completely from Facebook ads to Google ads, and we're going to welcome back Gianluca from BoosterBox. He's going to be talking about finding your North Star, basically what the important metrics are for your Google ads. If you want to sign up to that one, completely free training as always, just go to adespresso.com/webinars. So that's the presentation for today. I'd like to move on to any questions. So start typing your questions there. And I'm going to welcome Tori, who's been monitoring the questions today.
Hey, Paul, can you hear me?
I can. Hi, Tori.
Perfect. We had a lot of questions here today, so we'll go ahead and get right started. Our first one is, when running lead generation ads on Facebook, do you typically run other brand awareness and conversion ads simultaneously?
Yes, you can certainly do this. Like we saw, there's a sales funnel, so you could be doing some awareness first, and then once you've got those leads, we also saw that you can then build those custom audiences of leads and nurture them further. So yes, you don't just have to do lead generation. Ideally, use different audiences so that you're not competing against yourself, which will then keep your ad pricing down if you haven't got that overlap with audiences. But yeah, just map out your sales funnel, think about their user experience. Sometimes you want to get the lead straight away at first touch. Sometimes they need to know more information before you get that lead. So just go to that kind of classic sales funnel and think about the stage in the funnel where you want to get the lead there.
Awesome. Our next one is, I ran an experiment and my traffic ad generated 2 times the number of signups compared to my lead ads. Is the best way to figure out the best objective just to test it out?
Yes, we're always big fans at AdEspresso of testing. So you've really got to put some stuff out there, monitor the results, see what works there. Just bear in mind though that there's a lot of split testing that you can do to drive down your costs. So maybe your lead ad didn't work at first. Maybe you were using a video. Maybe you'll find that an image works a bit better for the lead generation forms, and so on. You can test different lead magnets that can make a big difference. The questions that you ask and how personal they are really makes a difference on the Facebook lead form. So if something doesn't work, then definitely try different creative, try different audiences, try different lead magnets, and try different questions before you give up on those there.
Great. And now this one was a bit more general. What are some of the reasons why a campaign would not generate any or very few leads? I know that's kind of overall, but maybe just a couple of quick tips that people should pay attention to.
This is actually a really great question. The way that Facebook optimizes is it optimizes for leads. So sometimes it does struggle, is that if it doesn't get leads coming in, then it just can't optimize and the campaign kind of grinds to a halt. Either it won't deliver or it just can't optimize properly. There is this snowball effect. The more leads that you get coming in, the better it works. So if you're just not getting many leads coming in, think about, first of all, look at your metrics that Facebook will tell you how many clicks you're getting on the ads. So what you can do is you can look and say, right, are people clicking on the ad and then just not filling in the form? If that's the case, maybe your form's too complex or you're asking too many questions. If people just aren't clicking on the ad, maybe that the proposition is wrong or you've got the wrong audience. So sometimes we think that people are going to try and bite our hand off to get that lead magnet and sign up and give us their valuable email address. You really got to take a step back and thinking, am I giving people the right content? Is it at the right stage of the funnel? So I usually advise new businesses where possible to test at least 2 lead magnets, but preferably half a dozen, and different types like we saw, quizzes, competitions, um, free gifts, and anything like that, as well as the standard lead magnets there. Could be coupon codes. So yeah, and that's something we can help as well with the campaign reviews, that with the AdEspresso services, we can definitely help with campaign reviews and coaching. But really look at all the metrics. Facebook will tell you what your CPM, your cost per thousand impressions is, the click-through rate, how many people open the forms, and so on. So you can see where the jump is, but definitely keep testing until you get some success there.
Awesome. Next one, how much or how long should you let an ad run before pulling the plug if you're not getting a lot of leads?
Again, this is a really good, we got some really good questions today. It really depends on the budget. What you kind of need to do is put something out there and get a benchmark for your cost per lead. At first, it's very hard to advise. Is it going to be $1? Is it going to be $100? So you kind of need to put something out there and leave it running on a moderate budget for, say, 4 days. Once you've started running some campaigns and you know what your benchmark is, then you can act quicker, because if you're expecting, say, an average of $10 a lead, and you haven't got any leads after $100, then it's probably not going to be working. So you do get more intuition the more you've been advertising. But what I like to do where possible is run at a moderate budget. As to what a moderate budget is, it could be very small or very high, depends what your advertising budget is. But try and run it for about 4 days. The reason why is maybe people didn't respond to your ads because it's for B2B, and there's just been a public holiday or the weekend. Or maybe you've got a consumer campaign and your product is designed for good weather and it's been raining all day and people just can't be bothered to sign up for your coupon or something like that. We're dealing with humans here, not just robots. So if we kind of have 4 days, then that's good, because that's going to even out that random variation and weekends and holidays and weather and all the kind of stuff that's been happening in the news lately.
Awesome. Another question here. Is there a significant conversion difference between asking people just for their first name or for their full name?
Great. I haven't really tested this. I would say name is pretty okay. Like name and email address is standard. It's really when you start asking for more details than that. Personally, I wouldn't give somebody my phone number from a Facebook lead ad unless I knew the company really well. If I've already been on their website and then they're remarketing me from a website custom audience, I might give that up. But just like if I don't know the brand, I'm not going to like hand out my phone number there. But I think like first name and email address, first name and last name, don't think there's going to be much difference. Certainly, you could always do an A/B test there. You could run 2 identical ads but with different forms and see what the conversion rate is. But just my hunch is I don't think there'd be much difference on that. It's more phone number is like the next stage along, and then like address and date of birth and things, very, very hard to get from Facebook lead forms unless it's quite low down in the funnel there.
Okay, great question. And I saw we had a couple of questions about lead generation strategies for service-based businesses from some people who were a little late to the call.
Cool. So services, like a good example with Hootsuite is that people can sign up for a free trial. Maybe you could give people a free audit, evaluation, that sort of things. So go back and watch the replay as well. With earlier on, we give you some examples there. But just think what's going to be of value to people. That's it. Just what can we give away for free that users are going to like. Something as well that I recommend is, depending on the size of your organization, if it's fairly large, speak to the sales team, find out what the FAQs are. What are people asking for? What information do they need? And then you can go and build your lead magnets based on user demand. Don't try and force users to have something that they don't want. Instead, find out their needs, their desires, their requirements, and build your lead magnets around there. But so many different things. It doesn't need to be an ebook or a white paper. So it could be those competitions, quizzes, coupon codes, anything like that. That's going to be of use to people there.
Awesome. And our last question here from Daniel, what's the most effective method for nurturing leads?
Effective method is definitely once you get those leads in, start remarketing to them by an email drip sequence, and make your emails interesting. So I think Gary Vaynerchuk calls it the jab, jab, punch method. So you kind of send people to soft emails. They're the jabs. You kind of just warm them up, give them some useful content, some story-based emails there. And then you kind of do that punch where you have a slightly harder email where you're going to give them a call to action. You know, go and buy now. Got this limited time offer. Here's the coupon code. So really that automated email welcome sequence. What I find is with most brands is they make the mistake of not sending out enough emails soon enough. Now, I'm not saying you should send people 100 emails and spam them because they'll just unsubscribe, but people have obviously signed up because they're interested in what you've got to offer. And then there's kind of like crickets. They don't have this email welcome sequence. And then they send out a monthly newsletter, you know, which could welcome if they've signed up on, you know, last day of the month or something, they've just missed the next newsletter. They don't hear from the brand for literally a month or sometimes 6 weeks. And then they're like, who the heck is this? Why are they emailing me? And because they've forgotten all about you. So just establish that relationship early on with that automated email sequence there. Cool. Is there any other questions, or is that the last one today?
The last one is always the most popular question. And yes, we will be sending out a replay in about an hour, hour and a half. So you'll get that via email, and we'll also have that available on YouTube as well.
Great. Thank you, Tori. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. And I hope that gives you some good tips on lead generation there. Thank you.